Hello and welcome. Our top story is from South Africa. Pretoria could further anger Donald Trump right at the beginning of the new year. How? By hosting Trump's adversaries for a BRICS naval exercise. On screen you can see two Chinese warships in Cape Town waters. These are the Taihu 8 and Tangshan 122. China is the one leading these drills. Yesterday, the Chinese naval destroyers were joined by an Iranian warship, the INS Makran. It is the largest vessel in Iran's naval fleet. And this is a view that Donald Trump is certainly not going to like, because he is not on good terms with any of these countries. A Russian warship has also arrived in Cape Town, and the UAE is also expected to send ships for the joint drills. It is called the Will for Peace 2026 drill. It starts tomorrow and will run through to January the 16th. These joint drills were previously called Exercise Mosi. Initially, the exercise was scheduled for November 2025, but it was clashing with the G20 summit in Johannesburg. Thus, it was postponed to January. Back in 2023, South Africa hosted China and Russia for naval drills. The exercise coincided with the one-year anniversary of the Ukraine war, and Pretoria faced backlash for it. China, Russia and South Africa first conducted joint drills in 2019. The latest drills come at a time when South Africa is failing to ease tensions with US President Trump. Trump has issues with Pretoria's domestic and foreign policies, like the black empowerment laws and genocide case against Israel. He has imposed a 30% tariff on the country, expelled its ambassador last year, made unsubstantiated white genocide claims, skipped the 2025 G20 summit, then banned Pretoria from the upcoming one. And he does not seem to soften his stance anytime soon.
South Africa has once again found itself at the center of global geopolitical tension as President Cyril Ramaphosa hosts China, Iran, and Russia for high-profile BRICS military war games, an event that has ignited sharp reactions across Western capitals and triggered an especially furious response from United States President Donald Trump. The naval drills, conducted in South African waters and framed by Pretoria as routine military cooperation, are unfolding at a moment of rising global instability, deepening mistrust between major powers, and a growing struggle over who shapes the future world order. The presence of Chinese, Russian, and Iranian warships operating together under the expanding BRICS banner has sent a clear signal far beyond Africa's shores. To supporters of the exercises, the drills represent the natural evolution of a multipolar world in which emerging powers coordinate more closely on security as well as economics. To critics, particularly in Washington, they look like a deliberate challenge to Western dominance and a warning shot aimed at United States influence across global sea lanes. Donald Trump has left little doubt about where he stands. According to United States officials and political allies, the president is enraged by the optics and the implications of the meeting. Trump has reportedly described the drills as provocative, reckless, and hostile to American interests, viewing them not as neutral training exercises, but as a strategic alignment among United States rivals. In private briefings and public remarks, Trump has accused the BRICS bloc of attempting to undermine American power and redraw the rules of global security without Washington's consent. Trump's anger is rooted in both symbolism and substance. China and Russia are already seen by Washington as long-term strategic competitors, while Iran remains one of America's most persistent adversaries. The fact that these three nations are conducting joint military drills on African soil, hosted by a country that has historically maintained strong diplomatic and economic ties with the West, has struck a nerve inside the White House. Trump allies argue that the exercises send a message of defiance, suggesting that United States pressure, sanctions, and warnings no longer carry the weight they once did. The drills themselves involve coordinated naval maneuvers, communication exercises, and simulated maritime security operations. South African defense officials insist the focus is on counter-piracy, search and rescue, and improving interoperability among participating navies. They emphasize that South Africa has a long history of hosting multinational military exercises, including with Western nations, and that these activities should not be interpreted as taking sides in global power rivalries. Ramaphosa has repeatedly defended the decision, stating that South Africa's foreign policy is based on non-alignment, sovereignty, and cooperation with all partners. Yet in today's polarized world, neutrality is increasingly viewed with suspicion. For Trump, the explanation offered by Pretoria rings hollow. He reportedly sees South Africa's role as lending legitimacy to an emerging security bloc that includes countries openly challenging United States policies, sanctions, and military presence around the world. Trump has warned that actions have consequences, hinting that nations aligning militarily with America's rivals could face economic or diplomatic retaliation. The geopolitical importance of the drills lies not only in who is participating, but in what BRICS has become. Once largely an economic grouping designed to amplify the voices of major developing economies, BRICS has evolved into a broader platform for coordination among states dissatisfied with Western-dominated institutions. The expansion of the bloc and its increasing discussion of alternative financial systems, trade mechanisms, and now military cooperation reflect a shared desire to reduce dependence on the United States and its allies. For Washington, this trend represents a direct threat to the post-World War II order that has placed the United States at the center of global finance and security. Trump has long argued that this system benefits others at America's expense, yet he is equally determined to prevent rivals from replacing it with an alternative structure that sidelines United States power altogether. The BRICS War Games, in his view, symbolize that dangerous possibility becoming more real. Trump's frustration has been described by aides as intense and personal. He reportedly feels that American warnings are being ignored and that traditional partners are becoming bolder in defying United States expectations. In blunt language, Trump has criticized what he calls fake neutrality, arguing that hosting military drills with sanctioned states is not a neutral act, but a political choice. He has questioned why South Africa would risk its relationship with the United States and Western investors for closer ties with countries often accused of aggression, repression, and destabilizing behavior. South Africa, however, sees the situation differently. Ramaphosa and senior officials argue that the country's history of colonialism and apartheid informs its commitment to strategic independence. They maintain that Africa should not be forced to choose sides in conflicts driven by great power rivalry. From Pretoria's perspective, engaging with BRICS partners enhances South Africa's global standing, strengthens South-South cooperation, and provides economic and security opportunities that the country cannot afford to ignore. Domestically, the drills have sparked debate within South Africa itself. Opposition parties have accused the government of damaging the country's reputation and risking economic fallout by associating too closely with Russia and Iran. Some civil society groups have staged protests, arguing that the exercises send the wrong message at a time when the world is grappling with ongoing conflicts and humanitarian crises. Supporters of the government counter that South Africa has the right to conduct its foreign policy without external pressure or threats. Trump's reaction has amplified these tensions. His warnings of possible consequences have revived fears of trade disputes, investment pullbacks, or diplomatic strain. Although no specific measures have been announced, Trump's track record suggests he is willing to use tariffs, sanctions, and public pressure to enforce his red lines. Analysts note that even the possibility of United States retaliation could have significant economic implications for South Africa and other BRICS members. Beyond the immediate fallout, the confrontation highlights a deeper shift in global power dynamics. The United States remains the world's most powerful military and economic actor, but its dominance is increasingly contested. China's rise, Russia's assertiveness, and Iran's regional ambitions have all contributed to a more fragmented and competitive international system. BRICS, in this context, functions as both a symbol and a vehicle for that transformation. The naval drills underscore that competition is no longer limited to trade wars or diplomatic statements. Military cooperation, even when officially defensive, carries weight and sends signals that shape perceptions and strategies. For Trump, who places great emphasis on strength and deterrence, allowing rivals to coordinate openly without pushback risks projecting weakness. This belief explains the intensity of his response and his insistence that the United States must draw clear lines. At the same time, critics argue that Trump's confrontational approach may be accelerating the very trends he fears. By pressuring countries to choose sides, Washington may be pushing some nations closer to alternative blocs that promise autonomy from United States influence. South Africa's insistence on non-alignment reflects a broader sentiment across much of the global South, where leaders are increasingly wary of being caught in the crossfire of great power competition. As the war games continue, diplomats around the world are watching closely. The exercises themselves may conclude without incident, but the political ripples are likely to last far longer. Relations between the United States and BRICS countries are already strained, and this episode adds another layer of mistrust. Whether cooler heads prevail or tensions escalate will depend on decisions made in Washington, Pretoria, Beijing, Moscow, and Tehran in the weeks ahead. What is clear is that the confrontation marks another moment in the slow but steady rebalancing of global power. The world is moving toward a more multipolar reality, one in which influence is contested and alliances are fluid. Trump's angry reaction to the BRICS drills reflects both resistance to that shift and anxiety about its consequences. For South Africa and its partners, the exercises are framed as an assertion of independence and cooperation. For the United States, they are a warning sign that the rules of the international system are being challenged. As warships maneuver off the South African coast and rhetoric intensifies across capitals, the message is unmistakable. The struggle over global leadership is no longer theoretical. It is playing out in real time, on the seas, in diplomacy, and in the increasingly sharp words of leaders unwilling to back down. What this means for future United States-BRICS relations remains uncertain, but the direction is clear. The gap between Washington and the emerging multipolar bloc is widening, and managing that divide may prove to be one of the defining challenges of the coming years.